All right, I think we're live. What's going on, everybody? We're going to do a live right now, a YouTube live on my channel. I mostly wanted to do it because I want to start doing some live things and allow people to chat back and give questions to us on different topics. I think a lot of people are into the live videos and stuff like that, so I thought I'd start doing these. And I was just talking to a friend of mine, Jan, and I thought that, well, why don't we use this as a reason to go ahead and practice this live stuff? So I was talking to Jan about a lot of the things that have happened in Bitcoin. There's this thing called, the fork that happened today or yesterday. It passed $4,000 a Bitcoin, and there's been a lot of other things going on in crypto. I've talked about, my feelings about people that talk about investing in cryptocurrencies. And that, to me, that's actually speculation. What most people are talking about, just buying something in hopes that it goes to the moon or whatever. But I think that there are a lot of cool things that, it's possible that could happen. There's a lot of good potential with these decentralized type of things. But I also think that when I look at Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, I see a lot of things that to me seem to be very scammy. People that don't know anything about kind of its intentions in the beginning that are in the industry. They look more like, MLM salesmen or something rather than somebody that really understands what the intention of these cryptocurrencies in the beginning. So Jan also understands that. So I thought that we would talk a little bit about that. And if you have any questions, please put it in the chat and we will answer those for you. So, Jan, thanks for agreeing to do this with me. So first, maybe if you can, like you said, it was kind of complicated as far as the Bitcoin fork goes, but I don't know anything about it. And then Bitcoin Cash, and that seems to have been, some people were saying that was going to crash everything, but it seems to have done the opposite. So maybe in layman's terms, what has just happened?
Well, I don't know if it crashed a little bit, I guess, but well, anyway, first of all, maybe kind of introduce what's up with me. I've been in Bitcoin. I bought my first Bitcoin at about $100 late 2013, and I've been following Bitcoin since I think 2011. But unfortunately, I didn't buy back then. I just wanted to see what happened, which I guess is one of the big mistakes of my life, I suppose. But yeah, so I've been in Bitcoin for quite a while. I like to keep up with the developments in Bitcoin, and I have a bit of a technical background. So I've been a web developer, I don't know, since I was 15, I guess. I'm 32 now. So I have some understanding of the technical aspects behind Bitcoin, although I wouldn't say I'm full experts, but I have a pretty good grasp of what's happening. So that's kind of my background. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. So what your question was about the fork? That's what you asked?
Yeah, basically, I mean, I know you said it was kind of complicated to explain that to people, but this fork that just happened, I think last week, I heard some other predictions that this was going to crash things and all that, but it seems to have gone up. And I know that now that there's two separate.
I don't think it went up all that much. I mean, so okay, the fork. First of all, I'm sure you're aware that there were basically two big movements within Bitcoin. I guess it was, people called it the block size debate. I think it was a lot more about power and about people who want to keep or have more influence over the Bitcoin protocol. And that's what I think this thing was. Now, Bitcoin Cash is a fork of Bitcoin. I guess you would call it a fork. Basically, it's a different coin. It's, a lot of people argue it is not Bitcoin. They just used the Bitcoin name and they airdropped Bitcoin to all the existing addresses, so they made a copy of the ledger, but the software has different rules than Bitcoin. I think it kind of, when it launched, the price for a little while there, I think it was about 20% of the Bitcoin price, which was, I think a lot of people did not expect that to happen. But then quite quickly it crashed again, and I think that currently it is about, I think, roughly 8% of the Bitcoin price, because you know, the real Bitcoin went parabolic again in the last couple of days. So I don't know. I don't know if you would say it crashed. A lot of people, they wanted to sell it immediately when it launched, and I think quite a few people did. But there were some technical hurdles that caused a lot of people to not know how to, or they were unable to sell them immediately. Me personally, I don't like the project, but I'm simply sitting on my Bitcoin Cash. I mean, I don't know. I'll just see what happens. I'm not in a hurry to sell them either, because I think that there's a good chance that these guys can make this coin pump. I'm sure they have some sort of a scheme to do this in the future. I don't know. We'll just have to see. So yeah.
So do you think that that's, I mean, but what happened with that, is that positive or negative for the overall outlook of it, you know, Bitcoin as a decentralized currency?
Well, I'm inclined to say it's good, because well, I don't like that they use the Bitcoin name. I think a lot of people agree with that, because it's quite confusing for a lot of people, and they use the same addresses as Bitcoin, which can cause a lot of problems for people too. That, you know, they have a Bitcoin address and then they buy Bitcoin Cash and then they don't receive it, and then, you know, so this can cause a lot of confusion.
Right.
But I think it's a good thing that the people who wanted to have this bigger block size and all that stuff, that they have kind of pulled back and started their own project, you know. And now I think the market is very clearly showing that the real Bitcoin, backed by the Bitcoin core developers, that this is the absolute winner. I mean, I think it's very clear that Bitcoin doubled in price since the new technology SegWit was locked in about a month ago. And I mean, it's unheard of. I mean, it went from $1,800 a month ago to now more than $4,000. So I think it's very telling that this is what the market actually wants, even though a lot of the big blockers, they say that you know, the market is being censored, Reddit is being censored. Personally, I don't think that this is actually true. I think a lot of these people who support Bitcoin Cash, I think a lot of them have different motives that may or may not be in Bitcoin's best interest. I mean, there's speculations that you know, maybe these miners are, maybe they were against the segregated witness, the new technology, because in the short term, at least, they could lose profits from collecting fees on the Bitcoin network. There's another speculation that miners may have been using a patented technology that makes mining slightly easier. It gives you a secret advantage. This technology is called ASIC boost. And people think that maybe these miners have been using this covertly. And this update, segregated witness, is going to disable this advantage. So miners who would secretly be using this advantage are going to see their profits shrink once this update is activated. So there's another reason. Then there's speculation that people, you know, a lot of people were calling Bitcoin Cash China coin, and they feel that.
Let me use that real basic here. So, like, can I buy Bitcoin Cash and regular Bitcoin now? Is that like two tiers?
Yeah. So they're basically two different coins. You know, if you already owned Bitcoin before August 1, and you were in control of your private keys, then you have some Bitcoin Cash now that you can get to. You already have it. But if you're going to buy Bitcoin now, after August 1, 2017, then if you want both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, you're going to have to buy them separately. So yeah, they're basically two different coins now. So what was I saying? China coin. So a lot of people, so I'm just kind of speculating what people are saying about China coin and what the motives are. You know, these miners and people who are for big blocks now. You know, I'm not saying everybody who's for big blocks has questionable motives, but another speculation is that governments would like to have more control over the Bitcoin network. Now, one way to do it is to centralize the network. if you raise the block size, that means that if you want to run the Bitcoin software, you're going to need an increasingly powerful computer as the Bitcoin network gets heavier. You know, underlying technology, the blockchain, gets bigger and bigger. So if you want to run the Bitcoin software in your house, for example, right now you can do it with a little Raspberry Pi, you know, a $30 computer. But if these guys would get their way, and you know, I don't know, you would get 8 megabyte blocks, or some of them even want bigger blocks. That would mean that ultimately you can get an enormous blockchain, which you can no longer run. That you can no longer run the Bitcoin software on a regular laptop, but you're going to have to get a very expensive supercomputer to handle all this information, all this data. You know.
Yeah.
Some people think that maybe it could be that the Chinese government is subsidizing some of these miners. You know, they kind of take these companies in, they groom them to be a national champion, so to speak. And this way, the Chinese government could try to have influence over Bitcoin, you know. But I think that Bitcoin has shown a lot of strength over the last month with the activation of this new technology. That it is still extremely resilient to these types of attacks, which in my opinion, Bitcoin Cash and these miners, they were attacking Bitcoin. And we're not out of the woods yet, because now, I'm not sure when, but there is the New York agreement that happened a few months ago with this New York conference, where a bunch of businesses and miners got together and they made a pact. Okay, we're going to do SegWit 2x. So they wanted to do this new technology, but also do a block size increase, which to me doesn't make so much sense. But so this is going to be a thing where a lot of industry leaders, I think, are still going to attempt to do this block size increase in the future. But I have a feeling that it's not going to happen. But you know, time will tell. I don't know. I think it's not going to. I think once SegWit is activated, there's going to be enough room to grow on the network, and I think a lot of people are like, well, why do we have to increase the block size now? You know, and a lot of people, the thing that the block size debate, I think, is it's contentious, because there's a large part of the community feels that, well, I guess this is a scientific thing, where if you raise the block size, you increase the risk of network centralization. And this can kind of reduce the security, the decentralized nature of Bitcoin. And in effect, you could argue that the 1 megabyte block size is a security measure. And if you would go for an unlimited block size, say, I mean, if we do it, if we extrapolate it to something crazy like a 1 gigabyte block size, where the Bitcoin blockchain could grow by 1 gigabyte every 10 minutes, that means that after a year, I don't know how much you get, but you would end up with, I don't know, a few teraflops or whatever. You would have to get an incredible computer to carry the size of this block size. And it opens the door for all kinds of spam attacks on the network, right? So I quite like the approach that the core of the Bitcoin technology, the blockchain, on-chain transactions, should be reserved for, you know, there should be some scarcity there, you know? I mean, if you're going to store stuff on a global ledger that you are sharing with all these people on all these computers all over the world, I think there should be a good price on that, you know? If you want to use the most secure network in the world to do finance transactions or whatever, I think it makes sense that you have to pay some money for that, you know.
Yeah. Well, listen. Let's talk about because all that's kind of very advanced, maybe like, you know, engineer type talk. It's to be like most people won't be able to wrap their head around it. But what people are wanting to know is, you know, is this something that I should buy, that I should invest in? Is this going to be good for decentralization and you know, an alternative to fiat currencies and things like that? Along with Bitcoin, you know, there's all types of different other coins that seem to be all over the place launching now. What's up with that? I mean, you think that that's lately with all the different types of coins that are launching, is that good or bad, or is there any specific like coins that you think now that are particularly, you know, not good for people to stay away from?
Yeah, I think this is lately what we've seen, I guess, since January in particular. That's kind of when it started exploding, is that you get this flood wave of ICOs, initial coin offerings, which to my understanding is the cryptocurrency equivalent of an IPO, an initial public offering, where you get all these companies that are now kind of, they want to decentralize all kinds of things that I think make no sense to decentralize, or, you know, companies that have absolutely nothing to do with cryptocurrency or whatever. It's just like regular companies, like a guy, I think there was an ICO where you could just pay, you could buy yourself into the ICO so that the founder of the ICO could buy a Tesla car or something. That was the ICO, you know? So, you know, the phrase irrational exuberance has been popping up a lot in the crypto space lately, which I think is happening. And I think, to me, the interesting parts of crypto are the open source projects that aim to cut out the middleman. That's, to me, the real meat and bones of what this is about, you know? Where we try to get rid of the banks, we try to get rid of, I don't know, stockbrokers, whatever, and open everything up. Where now you have a lot of I guess, investors or speculators, whatever, and they are simply here to collect some money through an ICO. And I think it's quite silly. And I think that in the end, this is probably going to rub off in a bad way on everything as a whole. You know, the cryptocurrency space as a whole is probably going to find some negative consequences from what's going on now. But on the flip side, it's been a total bonanza in the last couple of months with all these altcoins. You know, I don't know, Ethereum went, I think, had a 5,000% return of investment since January. It went from $6 to was it $400 or. So people have been making huge returns, but now you're seeing that a lot of these coins, they just went up like crazy. You know, they went 10x. Yeah. And now SegWit has activated on Bitcoin. It looks like a lot of these coins are starting to capitulate. You know, I mean, time will tell, but to me, it looks like the bonanza's over, you know, and now I think a lot of these coins are going to go into a deep winter sleep, and we may see them again 5 years from now, or I don't know. You know, I could be wrong, but I think that a big part on why a lot of these altcoins, I guess people call them, why a lot of these coins were booming so much, I think, is that there was a lot of uncertainty around Bitcoin and the scaling issues that Bitcoin had. And it kind of looks like now that SegWit is activating that Bitcoin, you know, I guess the king rides again, you know, and all these altcoins are giving up a lot of ground now to Bitcoin because, you know, this technology is about to activate, I think, in a day or 10. I think around August 22 is when SegWit is supposed to activate. So this is going to enhance the transaction throughput. So, you know, I think a lot of these altcoins are about to lose their, I guess, their use case, you know, because a lot of the things that these coins can do, Bitcoin is going to be able to do in the near future. Things such as increased privacy, microtransactions. Sorry, what else do we have? You know, new technologies that segregated witness is going to activate, is going to help with. I think that a lot of these altcoins are going to kind of lose their value. And also, you know, you were saying, you know, a lot of people say, well, what if a new coin pops up that does everything better than Bitcoin does? So, you know, I would argue that it's quite similar to, you know, you had TCP/IP, this protocol that the internet is built upon. And I believe Microsoft and some other companies in the 80s and 90s, they didn't like TCP/IP because it was kind of slow. You know, they said, you know, you can't do video on this; it's too slow. And they wanted a newer protocol that was also available. But the problem was that due to the network effect, all the good stuff of the internet was already on TCP/IP. So in the end, TCP/IP won, you know, and in second layers and stuff, they managed to make it scale. So I think that a similar thing is going to happen to Bitcoin, where Bitcoin has the network effect. It has the biggest name. It was the first coin. It has the biggest liquidity, the most well-known brand, you know. Bitcoin is what people, biggest market cap. It has the most legendary developers. I guess that's maybe a matter of opinion, but that's what I feel. So yeah, I don't really think that's the case. I think a lot of people are inclined to think this. You know, if you're talking about stocks or companies, then I think that's you make a good point. But Bitcoin isn't a company; it's an open source project, right? It's a protocol, and that's a difference, I think.
All right. So let me. So somebody asked, what about NEO and OMG hype?
I have to be honest with you. NEO, I've been seeing this. I know this is very hot with traders right now. I have to plainly admit that I have no clue what this is about. So we're gonna have to Google this, sir.
Okay.
But I don't even know the. I guess we can figure it out real quick. NEO. I think the. Yeah, I don't know. Should we do this? Should we get into this or?
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. But,
Bitcoin is a Bitcoin-based peer-to-peer cryptocurrency that aims to provide innovative and instant payment systems all over the world. Yeah, so you know, if you ask me, Bitcoin is going to be able to do that stuff too. So I don't know. It's like with these altcoins, you know, every month there's some new coin that traders are pumping, you know, and it's fun. I like to engage in pumps. Some, you know, when I bought Ripple, for example, in let's say I think March. I bought some Ripple because it became very obvious to me that there was a lot of money coming into the space, and all these people didn't care about decentralization or any of the things, or open source software. People didn't care about that stuff. They just wanted to make money. Now, I think Ripple is a complete shitcoin. But why not throw some money, make some money, you know? I sold it. I doubled some money with it. I didn't ride the whole wave. But anyway, you know, it's fun to trade coins. You know, if you can make some money, why not? But I think in the long run, these coins have very little to offer. And I actually think some of these coins are downright scams, you know? They engage in things like pre-mining coins, which is what Ripple did. Ripple is basically a company. This is not an open source software, you know. And I think the case for being bullish with Ripple, I think, is that people think that banks are gonna buy into this, you know, that banks are gonna use it as a payment rail or whatever, and that there would be money to make. But I mean, you know, in the long run, I think most of these projects are just gonna be forgotten. You know, they're gonna end up. I think a lot of people are gonna lose a lot of money on them too. Because at the end of the day, you know, do you want a solid, decentralized money with very clear monetary policy, legendary open source developers, or do you want a coin that, you know, that bankers are propping up, a coin that's centrally controlled? So again, you know, NEO. I don't know about NEO, but if you ask me, I'm probably guessing that this thing is going to pump. Maybe far beyond what it's doing now.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's gonna crash again, and then maybe it's gonna pump again in the future. But
what do you mean? All the cryptocurrencies are the alternative coins?
What do you mean?
You mean like, I mean, how? I'm just trying to figure out how that would look. So you got all these altcoins, and you're saying the market for that it is going to go down at one point in time, or how? I mean, how would that even
well, there's
play
a
out?
site, what's the site? Coin Market Cap. I forgot. There's a site where you can see the dominance of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Over the altcoins, right? So you can also go to CoinCap, where you kind of get a coincap.io, where you kind of get a sense of the currencies that are doing well now. You know, currencies that have a high market cap.
Yeah.
which I think doesn't mean all that much having a high market cap, because they're, you know, I think it's quite easily manipulated, market caps, especially in the case of pre-mines or whatever. So basically what I think is that, you know, you get, when newcomers come into the cryptocurrency space, they look at Bitcoin and they see, Bitcoin is $4,000 now. That's so expensive. And then they look at Ethereum and they see, Ethereum is $350. So I'm going to buy the cheap coin. You know, I'm going to be smart and I'll just buy the cheap coin. But what a lot of these people don't realize is that, for example, Ethereum doesn't really have a monetary policy that restricts the supply of Ethereum. So Ethereum is just going to inflate into oblivion in the long term, right? So to me, you know, yeah, sure, it's cheaper, but there are far more. I think right now Ethereum has close to 100 million coins in supply. The supply of Ethereum is almost 94 million. The Bitcoin supply right now is 16.5 million. But, you know, newcomers, they don't look at this stuff. They don't care. A lot of these people don't care much about decentralization or whatever. So, you know, they come in and they want to make a lot of money, and they go to an exchange and they just buy whatever, you know, and they feel like they're buying cheap currencies that are going to make them millionaires very quickly in the future, you know. That's kind of what I think is happening. And then the bubble pops, and a lot of these newcomers, they kind of learn their lesson. And, you know, I think 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to look at coincap.io, and there's going to be a whole different list of top 10 coins, you know, probably a bunch of new coins. Or the point is, you know, a lot of these altcoins, they live mostly on hype, you know, and right now we've just had a huge hype cycle, lots of new money coming in, lots of traditional investors who are quite clueless about what makes Bitcoin special and where Bitcoin's potential is, you know. And I think a lot of people are just like, you know, let's make some money, let's become millionaires, let's do margin trading, you know, let's be a millionaire next week. That's what I think is happening.
That's what most people are going to think. Somebody says if crypto gets regulated, Ripple may be the way to go.
It's possible. I guess it's possible.
This is weird to me because it's like anything, you know, I've you know, seen bubbly markets, frothy markets, and when you get a bunch of people that, you know, are all of a sudden within a month or 2 months, they're like experts on trading and in the market. No, I made so much money, and all of a sudden they're making courses and they're a coach on how to get other people to make a lot of money by speculating in this market. It's like alarm bells go off, you know, big time for me. And it seems to me like it's such a young market that, you know, fundamentals that you use even for, you know, so if you are speculating, that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about speculating. If you're going to be speculating, normally, you can run a regular technical analysis. You pay attention to certain markets, and there's certain kind of fundamental things, the fundamentals of the market and stuff like that. And, you know, it seems to me that you don't even have that established, even on Bitcoin, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, you can probably make money.
I mean, I think that what you're saying has some truth to it. And I think that this applies to a lot of altcoins, a lot of these ICOs, you know? But in the case of Bitcoin, I think there is very decent fundamentals for Bitcoin. And again, you know, Bitcoin is not a company, it is a protocol that's under heavy development. And what I think is going to happen is that Bitcoin is going to become a base layer that is going to be widely used for all kinds of purposes in the future. And say, you know, for example, if you wanted to invest in mobile phone networks or whatever, you could not invest in the technology itself, I guess. You had to invest in companies that were exploiting the technology, you know. But with Bitcoin, you actually have a chance to invest directly into the protocol, which to me is a big difference. So yeah, but you know, at the end of the day, this is all opinion stuff, I guess.
Yeah, but you said that you're getting that you like Monero as well, right?
I'm a big fan of Monero because I think it's one of these open source projects that I think is what cryptocurrency should be about. You know, it shouldn't be about some company with a business model that are going to exploit this coin. And like, for example, there's a bunch of coins. Dash, for example, is a supposedly anonymous currency that was heavily pre-mined. So, you know, before they launched the coin, the creators of the coin, which is kind of, in this case, modeled after business, they gave themselves a whole bunch of coins before they launched the coin, you know, and then the plebs come in and they can mine it. And I guess in the end, you know, it's been a pretty successful coin. They've been around for a long time. They have established a pretty good brand, but I'm not buying it because I don't think that this model is the way to go with cryptocurrency. I think open source is what this is about, you know, and it's about cutting out the middlemen. And a lot of these coins, a lot of these ICOs, they are trying to be middlemen, you know, and it makes no sense to me. And it's you know, like there's a few things that I would consider holding longer term. Monero is one of them. Ripple, for example, I would not sit on that thing for a long time. You know, I held Ripple like a week or something, and I would put a good stop loss in place. But there's no way I'm going to sit on Ripple because I just don't trust that coin. You know, and yeah,
so how do you put in a stop loss? I didn't know you could put a stop loss.
Well, it depends on the page, you know, but you say if the market value of the coin drops below this point.
I know what a stop loss is, but I didn't realize you could do that on these exchanges.
Well, of course, I mean, that's what an exchange is for, you know. I mean, not all exchanges, but a lot of decent exchanges, they have these types of options where you set targets, stop losses. It helps because that way you can just go to sleep without checking the price every hour, you know.
Yeah. Which market do you use?
I like Kraken. Bittrex is fun for, you know, the so-called shit coins with low market caps. I don't do that so much, though. I kind of stick with the coins with higher market caps. But if you feel like you're in the mood for adventure and you really want to engage in heavy speculation, then Bittrex is a great place to do it. But right. Yeah, and, I know what you're saying about all these people bragging about how much money they made. You know, this has been rampant. I hear an echo, James.
Not for me.
Oh, well,
let me try to mute. If I can mute my deal here.
But this kind of, you know, a lot of these people, the gambling profits are very addictive, you know, and these people are riding high. And I think a lot of people are right now getting wrecked as we speak because a lot of these altcoins are just like last 2 days or last 3 days. They have been giving so much ground to Bitcoin, you know, because Bitcoin is just taking back its territory right now, I think. And so I think the bonanza is kind of on its last legs. I think a lot of these people are kind of going to wither away and, you know, they may never come back to Bitcoin or I don't know. But at the same time, you know, it's fun. I follow a whole lot of traders on Bitcoin and it's fun, you know, and trading is fun, you know, and if you feel that there's money to be made, why not, you know? But
it's also fun to go to Vegas.
Exactly, you know. I guess that's it, really.
So what if somebody? Yeah.
If you go to Twitter and you look up the hashtag what is it, $crypto, you're just going to see a big bonanza of all these traders, and it's a lot of fun, you know. Just scroll through it, and you're going to get a lot of tips, a lot of idiots, a lot of smart people also, you know. I think there's a lot of pumping going on. Another thing that might be interesting to talk about is that there's been quite some talk lately about spoofy, is what it's being called. People are saying that there's a lot of manipulation going on out of exchanges. Is, you know, this is all speculation, right? But so I don't know. I haven't looked into this too deeply, but this is what a lot of people are talking about, that exchanges are third parties, you know, and a lot of them are companies, and sometimes incentives can get slightly corrupted, you know. And we saw BTC-E a pretty old exchange that has been around for a long time that got busted selling stolen bitcoins and I guess coins that were related to the deep web or the dark web, whatever you want to call it, dark markets. There's also been talk that Bitfinex, which is a pretty big exchange, that they have kind of been engaging in manipulating the price. These people are sitting on a lot of funds, so it's not unthinkable that there's somebody there who has a lot of influence and access to a lot of coins of their customers to kind of start playing the market a little bit, And the thing is, you just don't know. This happened in 2013 too, where Mt. Gox, this exchange that was the most widely used exchange back then, they were also caught manipulating the market with a trading bot called Willy. So I would not be surprised that stuff like this is going on during this bubble too, But time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah. But what if, I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that, they like Bitcoin, like what it could be and some of the aspects of it, some of the potential of it. But maybe they don't, there's not so much into, the speculative side of it, but they would like to, if there's some actual, actual investment type of opportunities, whether it's in companies or I'm not sure, something where you can, you actually have like rates of return and this type of thing. Like, I don't know if there's something in the industry that might be in the long run, like a legitimate type of investment that people can look at.
Wait, can you repeat that? If there's going to be
so like, what we're talking about basically is whether these, before we were talking about Bitcoin and then we were talking about the altcoins and, what the potential that they might have in the future as far as, price potential, usage potential, and the amount of people that are using them. But, and then we're, talking about kind of the gambling aspect of it, which is we're talking about speculation, right? And so what I'm wondering is if somebody doesn't really want to speculate, but might want an actual investment, whether I don't know whether it would probably be some sort of a company that does something on Bitcoin that they can get a return on, buying shares in some company or something like that. Is there any sort of like a passive investment type thing that you can do on any, whether Bitcoin or Monero or something like that? Rather than just buying and holding. I mean,
sure, how to, because what you're talking, I guess, if you want dividends are usually paid by companies, to my knowledge.
Right.
So you would have to invest in a company. I'm sure there's plenty of companies, exchanges that you can invest in or whatever. I'm not too knowledgeable about this really, but
yeah,
Bitcoin is not. It's not a stock. It doesn't pay dividends. It's more like gold in that regard. It just kind of sits there. You own it, you sell it, you buy it. If you're lucky, you have some profit after a while.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think would be interesting is that what's probably going to happen at some point. There are a lot of efforts to kind of try to start up some type of decentralized stock market, I guess, and also, for example, there's another cryptocurrency. I believe it's Counterparty, where you have basically what you can do is you can create unique things and put them on there and then assign a price to it. So for example, you could put art on the blockchain in this. I mean, this sounds a bit spacey, but I think that these types of initiatives could end up being very interesting things in the future. But to be honest, I'm not too knowledgeable about this. And yeah, it sounds to me that you're asking about companies. And I think to me, the most interesting aspect of Bitcoin is that it gives us a chance to kind of reduce the role of companies and third parties in a lot of ways, and like especially banks, I guess first and foremost bank. So yeah, I'm not sure how to answer your question really. again, to me, the most important thing here is the open source projects that are aiming to cut out the middlemen and dividends and all that stuff. For now, I think that's kind of old stuff. And I guess, you know, ICOs, in a way, are, you know, the SEC says, you know, these are securities. So there is kind of, there seems to be an attempt to emulate a stock market in some ways on blockchains. But I'm not sure if they're going to be getting away with it for now, because the SEC seems to be, you know, and these people still have a lot of power. So I think that at some point the SEC is probably going to step in, and they're kind of going to ruin this whole ICO party that people are having.
Yeah,
and
but I mean, all these services online, you know, whether it's, you know, an exchange that you mentioned before, was it Kraken, or you know, I know that you can get you know, cards, and they, you know, they act like a Visa or MasterCard or whatever, where they take a certain percentage. You know, they have to have a profit, all these different companies that are offering these different services. So I would think that, you know, rather than just, I mean, you can obviously speculate in the market and try to make some money that way, but I think that it's also, you know, it'd be a more kind of a measured risk to see if you can buy, you know, stakes or get into some of the companies that are offering services around cryptocurrencies and you know, making a profit. And, you know,
yeah, I mean, sure, you know, there's a lot of companies doing interesting things around it. The first thing that comes to my mind is exchanges. I guess I'm not sure how this works. I'm not sure if these exchanges are public companies that you can buy stocks in. I don't know how this works.
Yeah. Somebody asked. Yeah. Somebody asked about Pillar token. I don't know.
Killer token?
Pillar, Pillar. I mean, I suppose that there's so many different coins. It seems like it's just so many different coins now. Like if you could just go and ask about every individual.
Yeah,
coin.
Most of the coins have nothing to add. You know, it's just usually they just take the Bitcoin software, they change a few variables, change the name, make an icon in Photoshop, and you have a new coin. You know.
Right.
And I think how a lot of these coins. I mean, look, I think there's thousands of coins. And most of these things are probably just going to disappear. You know, people are going to forget about them over time, I guess. And in the meantime, there's a lot of money to be made, a lot of money to be lost. That's kind of how I feel about it. What was the name? Killer coin?
Pillar, Pillar token.
It's a token. I don't know. Why don't you Google it and tell me what it is? And maybe we can have a good laugh. I don't know. Or I mean, maybe it's great. You know, who knows? Maybe it's the next big thing. I don't know. You know, you just become a bit skeptical. I've been paying attention to Bitcoin, I guess, since 2011, very actively since 2013, and you kind of get a bit, you know, you get all these companies, all these new coins, and everything is the next big thing, and you kind of get a little bit skeptical at some point, you know.
Right.
And we're also in such an early stage that I think basically the big stuff is still that they are developing the base layers for what is going to be this big thing, I think, in the future, you know. So it's still very early, you know. All the real big applications that are really going to make a difference in the future, I think, are not there yet, because the base layers still need to be finalized, I guess, or come to full fruition, you know. And meanwhile, I do think that we are getting to the point now where I think there's a lot of money coming into cryptocurrency. I think that with all the political instability, you know, people are very scared of what Trump is doing, and World War III is on the rise and whatnot. And it really seems that Bitcoin is in a very favorable position here, where it's really seen as an independent asset now, you know, and an asset that doesn't correlate with the stock market. It's just its own independent thing, you know. Banks can just take it away, but so yeah, in that sense, I think this is a very interesting time, you know.
So how long until Bitcoin collapses all the governments and all the central banks of the world?
I think next week would be next week. Next week.
Next week.
Right. I mean, I don't know, but I do see. I mean, you know, a lot of people. I guess that would make me what they call a Bitcoin maximalist. I could see a role for Bitcoin to become some sort of a reserve currency in the future. You know, who knows? Maybe not. But I really think that Bitcoin is on track to become a whole new asset class. You know, and already, you know, it kind of feels like we're already nearing the top of this bubble. I would not be surprised if we're going to hit 6,000 in a day or 10. It's very possible, you know. And I think that shit, I lost my point. Really, what were you saying? Because I was thinking of all this money, I completely lost my.
You're thinking about all the money you're going to make.
Yeah, but shit, I lost the point.
Anyways, but that it'll go up to 6, but then it'll probably have a correction after that, I'm sure is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I think. And yeah, so, you know, who knows? I think there seems to be so much interest. That's what I was going to say. There seems to be so much interest right now. I think there is a wall of money about to come in from institutional, you know, institutional money that, you know, actual companies who are beginning to realize that Bitcoin might be a hedge against all the political turbulence that seems to be escalating now, you know.
Yeah,
I think people are very aware that the dollar is not going to be around forever anymore, or at least it's not going to be as prominent as it's been. And I think a lot of people are beginning to wake up to this. And also, from my personal experience, I know of so many people who I've been telling about Bitcoin in the past 3 or 4 years. You know, in 2013 they were saying, you know, well, we'll see. You know, I don't know about this. I can't touch it. I don't understand it. And now I see a lot of these people are beginning to get very interested, and they want it, and they're beginning to see that there's more to it than just some point. You know, that there's it's actually good technology behind this, and that this thing is quite special. And most of these people, most of these friends, they want it, but they are still on the cusp of figuring, you know, where do I get it? How do I store them? But I think that once all these friends are figuring this out, that's going to be another milestone. And at some point, I think there's going to be a tipping point where so many people are going to know about Bitcoin and they're going to want it, that I expect that at some point, you know, if you want to, you know, you have somebody you trust to work for you, whatever, you say, can I pay you in Bitcoin? That people are going to say, sure, I like Bitcoin. You can pay me in Bitcoin. And I think that's going to be a tipping point where Bitcoin is really going to
well, yeah, what you're basically saying is that people are holding it for its usability rather than for speculation. I mean, that's the thing that's always been weird to me is, you know, everybody's holding it, hoping that the price goes up. But that's not the point. You know what I mean? The point is, in order for it to be adopted by people who are going to use it in their daily lives, to hire people, like you just gave an example of. But I think one of the holdbacks is that, you know, people have to pay taxes. People have to pay, like, well, here in Mexico, we're both in Mexico, but you know, they have to pay all their CFE, the water bill, the electricity bill, and all this stuff. It all goes to the government, and it's all going to be in local currency. So that's, you know what I mean? I think that's one thing that's always going to.
Yeah, so listen, the Japanese government, I believe, accepts Bitcoin payments. So if you have to pay your taxes in Japan, you can pay the government Bitcoin. Now they'll probably convert it to the yen or whatever, but you know, I think I understand what you're saying, but I think that you're underestimating the degree to which people are actually using this in real life, you know? And I have used Bitcoin in real life a lot, really. And I know that there are just tons of use cases from people who are doing illegal things to people who run a normal business. You know, for example, Overstock.com, which is a huge web shop. Well, they're going to hold half of their Bitcoin, you know. So I don't think that your argument stands. You know, we talked about this before. I mean, you know, sure, there's speculation, but there's also a real use case where, you know, Bitcoin is actually scarce. It is secured by very strong cryptography. It is the strongest computer network in the world also. So to say that, well, it's all just made up and it's only worth something because people believe it. Now, in a way, yes, but it's not like just dumb trinkets, right? There's some very strong and powerful technology behind this. So
Right.
I'm kind of split on this thing.
I had a guy. I had one of the.
Yeah. This person, I have more faith in the cryptography behind Bitcoin than bankers and politicians who are guarding your dollar bank account or whatever, or your dollar paper bills.
Yeah, the point is that they can force you. They can force you to use their currency.
Yeah, sure, but at the same time, there's a game theory aspect to that where once a government cracks down on Bitcoin, they really risk on losing out on huge innovations and also huge wealth if they don't. I think that the first nation that's really going to embrace Bitcoin is probably going to go through. I think it's going to be incredibly wealthy nation, and it's probably going to be Switzerland, maybe Russia, perhaps China.
Wasn't Russia talking with Ethereum? I thought they had to sign a contract or something like that.
That up with Vitalik Buterin, the creator of Ethereum, and I don't know. Maybe that was just maybe it's just a pump scheme. Maybe Putin bought some Ethereum and they were pumping it together. I don't know. But I also read that what Russia is going to do is that Putin is launching an initiative, I believe, an Ethereum ICO or something, because he wants to put Russia on the map of cryptocurrency mining. The Chinese are already very big, and I think that Russia wants to become a player. They want to have some hashing power in the cryptocurrency world, I guess. Mm. And this kind of shows you that governments are beginning to take notice. And for good or for worse, this is a very big development, I think. And I guess it's true they could ban it, but there's a flip side to that too, where governments could end up hurting themselves, So yeah, we'll just have to see. I think also that if a government would ban it, and you would have a bunch of Bitcoin whales that live in the United States, for example, and the U.S. government says we're going to ban Bitcoin, these whales are all just going to get on a plane and they're going to bring their Bitcoin wallets to Switzerland or whatever, and they can store their wallet in your brain. So this is a very interesting subject. What would happen if a government would ban it? But I think that I think they are quite limited in their ability to actually ban it. And if they do ban it, or they manage to sabotage the network somehow, then I think there's still a lot of wiggle room by developers to make an adjustment to the protocol or whatever. I mean, look at the Pirate Bay, for example. How many times have they banned the Pirate Bay, and they're still online? Because this is just what software does. If people want it to work, it's going to work. So, and that's kind of what I think is going on with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I had a.
It's not like there's one switch you could flip off. Sorry, what you were saying?
I had a guy, a follower at the Borderless, who sent me a video, and it was of a Russian guy, and he was making the argument. He was saying that, well, how come if anybody comes up with any type of gold-backed currency, silver-backed currency, the government comes in and like kicks their ass, locks them up.
Yeah.
But then these people with Bitcoin are allowed to operate, just freely. And what he was trying to say is that this is all a conspiracy. The central bankers are trying to get everybody into cryptocurrencies, because then they can just say, oh, well, nobody controls it. And so then they can fuck everybody over. And they say, oh, well, it doesn't, there's no certain people that they can go after.
So what's, I've heard that.
It's a theory. I don't know. You can't really, but
no, but look, I guess this is ultimately, this is the struggle to get rid of government controlled money. They want to have influence, and they're going to give up a fight to let it go. I think it's funny, by the way, we both know Peter Schiff.
Yeah.
And I love Peter Schiff. I followed Peter Schiff since, I guess, 2008 or whatever. I really respect
He's been
the
on
guy.
just a rant. He just rants all the time against Bitcoin.
And, you know, I think the guy is so smart. He makes such good points on a lot of things, you know. He has a really, he is so coherent when it comes to explaining economics, all the stuff. I think the guy has a huge bias when it comes to Bitcoin. Because basically, you know, there's a video where he talks to Max Kaiser about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I saw that one.
And basically, he's like, well, Peter Schiff thinks that the future is a gold-backed currency, you know, or gold itself. But you're still going to have the problem that you're going to have to trust a third party to manage the gold in a responsible way, you know. And if I'm not mistaken, people have tried this before. There has been a gold standard, you know, and it got completely corrupted. So I think that this is kind of a silly case, you know, that he's making. And, you know, then some people say, well, why don't we do a cryptocurrency that's backed by gold? But then you're still going to have a third party that's going to have to make sure that all the gold corresponds with the cryptocurrencies, you know. And I think it's kind of silly because you're just reintroducing the third party security hole to this old problem, you know. And I think it's kind of silly. I don't know if Peter Schiff is really, either he is really not seeing it, or he's just, you know, the guy's been pumping gold for more than 10 years, I guess. So, you know, the guy's not going to say on his what is it, Ocean Pacific, Euro Pacific. He's not going to say, oh, guys, you know, I changed my mind. I think Bitcoin's awesome. So let's buy Bitcoin, everybody. He's not going to say that. So,
well, he does accept Bitcoin to buy gold on his through his.
Of course, when. Which I think is kind of funny, you know. And he says, yeah, you know, everybody who received Bitcoin, they convert it to fiat. I don't think that's true. I know a lot of people who accept Bitcoin and they hold it. I mean, look at Overstock. I've done it myself. I'm sure that a lot of people do this. A lot of people prefer Bitcoin over fiat. You know, and especially, say, 2015, when the price was kind of bottoming out, I think a lot of people felt confident again to just take it, you know. So
I mean, that's risky because the thing is, for most people, I just say, if you know, so for, you know,
yeah, it's risky, but
for a normal person, say you're making you know, you buy a house or something, somehow you get 200 grand or something in Bitcoin. You know, for a normal person, it's like, that is fucking risky to have 200 grand. You know,
right? I mean, I get that people,
you know, yeah, you hold $500 there, $30, but if you're talking about big money, then that's, you know.
Yeah, in that case, I mean, if it's you know, in that case, it wouldn't make too much sense to do it yet. I could see some people do it. You know, if you want Bitcoin anyway, you want to invest. There's this whole thing. I think Barry Silbert, his brother Alan Silbert, he has a website. Forgot the name, but it's like a marketplace where people sell nice things for Bitcoin. You know, and the whole idea there, I guess, that people sell their Lamborghini or whatever, and then they want Bitcoin in return to actually sit on that Bitcoin. So it happens, you know. It happens.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, then
yeah. You want to wrap it up?
Wrap this up, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we've had a good chat. I think we covered a lot of the things that are playing at the moment.
All right. And yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Wanted to try out this live thing. Finally got that working, got some people on here. So I hope everybody enjoyed this, and try to do this again sometime. And nice looking hair there, Jan. This is the first time I've seen you with your haircut.
I know. Long, but you know, there's so many hippies where I live that you kind of get tired of all that hippie stuff. So I figured. Yeah. Also, it's way too to have long hair here.
Right.
As you know, southern Mexico is pretty damn hot, especially.
Yeah, it's got to be humid as hell right now here. It's really great, but
yeah. All right,
yeah,
but
well, you got a kid now, and you're a responsible guy, so you got to cut the hair off. So, anyways, all right, man. Well, it was good talking to you. Thanks again. All right.
Yeah, and all the best. Don't forget to buy Bitcoin, James.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, bye-bye. Take care.